cause that is primarily to help one another, to educate one another, and to stick by one another through this as a community. So thank you.
Gather more behind for the photo ops. The cameras can see everybody in our story.
Yeah, you young people, stay in the front.
Hey, Larry!
Stay in the front.
Okay, I think we're just about time to get going. So we're going to begin the press conference now. And the first thing I should say is that the Occupy movement is really a leaderless movement. So I, like everybody else out here, am participating as one individual, adding one more voice to the movement. And I'd like to say at the outset that this movement is too big to be ignored. It's too big to fit under the umbrella of any single political party either. The movement is 99%, and that part of the 1% who want to do the right thing, and that means we have the potential to be 100%. The movement is for everybody, and that's too big for any one single political party. It's important to realize that this movement didn't spring up out of nowhere. In my estimation, the inception of the movement was in the 80s when presidential candidate Ronald Reagan was selling the theory of trickle-down economics, in which government regulation was demonized as the root of all evil, and if only the wealthy could be made wealthier, their success would somehow trickle down to everyone else. It should be abundantly clear to everyone that trickle-down economics doesn't work. This movement is a repudiation of trickle-down economics. Ronald Reagan was a Republican, but the Republicans are not to be scapegoated here. When Treasury Secretary Robert Rubin helped repeal Glass-Steagall, he opened the door for the current crisis to develop. That was under President Clinton's watch, a Democrat. When Congressman Phil Gramm drafted the provision of the law that exempted credit default swaps from regulatory oversight, he literally paved the way to economic devastation. But Phil Gramm was a Democrat. Nope, Republicans and Democrats hold equal accountability for the condition that we as a nation are in now, and they both need to atone for it, in my opinion. Concentrating the wealth of our nation in just 1% of our population is a recipe for disaster, as we have seen as this country has moved from one boom and bust economic frenzy after another. One of the latest incarnations of this feeding frenzy was seen when the dogs of Wall Street were unleashed on a derivatives feeding orgy to essentially sell and resell debt. To my mind, debt is less than nothing. I think that at least 99% of Americans can now say that mass selling of debt was a bad idea. The current recession is not the result of natural forces. It didn't just happen. The recession is the result of the collusion between the corporatocracy and our government to harvest the people of this nation. In other words, to take our prosperity away from us. Well, corporatocracy, we are not a crop to be harvested for your financial gain. The real tangible economies exist on the main streets of our country, not on Wall Street. I don't accept that our downtowns have to become empty shells. I don't accept that local businesses have to be replaced by one-size-fits-all chains. I don't accept that our jobs have to be outsourced. We need reform, and we need it now. Woo! Yeah! And I would say, why don't we start by overturning the Citizens United ruling that gave corporations all the rights of the human being. Okay, and with that, I'm going to open the press conference to some speakers, and the first speaker will be Derek Bausek, a CSUMB student activist, a founding member of Occupy Monterey, and a future lawyer.
Good morning. I'm a 22-year-old college student, and one of the questions posed through a lot of the meetings we've had through General Assembly amongst the youth is, what are we going to do next? Our generation is facing one hell of a problem. And at first they tried to tell us that this was something that would merely pass in a few weeks or few months, that the movement would not last, that our efforts to try to fix what is going on in the economic, political, and social system of this country was unstoppable. Well, to those people that said to me or told me this, all I have to say is look behind me. It's been 5 weeks. 5 weeks, and we've only grown stronger. We have a foundation, an infrastructure, and we have not one but two areas. One for a 24-hour vigil, and one for an encampment. And that was done with non-violence. That was done through the progressive thought of the youth, as well the various community members that have come out for this movement. They tried to tell me that this movement was out of a social movement, a social class movement, that it only pertained to the lower socioeconomic demographic. And for that, once again, I have to say that you are wrong. We have students, activists, the middle class, the working class, the unemployed. We have all people from all spectrums of the demographic here today united to help one another, to build a community. And this is something that is not easily done, but we have done it. We have the beginnings of a community right here at Colton Hall. We have people that are doing media, legal, transportation, sanitation, food. It is a working group. And all I have to say is that as the future comes, and many of us are going to be exiting college or going into college or leaving high school and going into a former or a further form of educational institution, that you hold hope for this movement and that you keep it alive. And how might you do that? Through educating yourself and those around you. Thank you.